Eva Ritvo is a psychiatrist based in Miami, Florida, and the author of Be Kinder, The Transformative Power of Kindness. Today, she'll be interviewing Jonah Feingold. He is a New York City-raised writer-director with a passion for relatable romantic comedies. His directorial work online has accumulated over 100 million views and can be seen on BuzzFeed, Funny or Die, CNN, HuffPost, and more. He is currently in post-production on his debut feature film, which he also wrote. The film is called Dating in New York, starring Jabuki Young White, Francesca Reale, Kat Cohen, Brian Mueller, Alex Moffat, Arturo Castro, Eva Victor, and Jerry Ferrara. His new show on TV is Singlehood, in development with Julianne Hough, Canary Pictures. Jonah is also the co-host of the official Hinge podcast, Dating Sucks. Creativity in the time of COVID. Take it away, Eva.
Hi, Jonah. It's great to see you again.
Great seeing you as well.
How are you doing?
I am great. I'm here in New York City on a Friday afternoon, lovely spring day, and I'm well. It's humid, but I'm doing good. How about you?
Well, when I had my daughter here in quarantine with me, I would say on Friday afternoon, what do you want to do this weekend?
That's fun.
Which sort of leads us right into our topic, right? I was kind of saying and joking, like, what are we going to do? But now the world is starting to open up. So that's today's topic, which is how are we going to be creative, find more fun to do, but yet stay safe. But before we go there, I want our audience to hear a little bit more about you. So you're a filmmaker, you're a dating expert. Can you tell us how you got there and how you put those two together?
Totally. Yeah, so first and foremost, I would say filmmaker card comes first. I was 4 years old, or around that age, when I saw a film that would directly change my life forever, a film called Hook, where Dustin Hoffman plays Captain Hook and Robin Williams plays Peter Pan. And I saw that movie and I knew from that very moment that the only thing I could do in life is be a filmmaker. And I forget how old I was. I was born in 1990. So it came out, I don't know when I saw it, but I was very young. I was maybe 3, 4, 5. And that was it. That was the moment. Filmmaking for me has been the goal my entire life. And I've had a camera in my hand since I was big enough to hold one. And from there, I went to film school at USC and I graduated and I was making videos for the internet. And I became influenced by other filmmakers besides Spielberg, Nora Ephron and, God, it's like, I guess movies that influenced me, it's weird to say because it's a more controversial topic, but Annie Hall is a movie that I really love. Obviously the filmmaker, not in the best presence of press and life choices right now, but that is a movie that definitely impacted me as a kid. And taking my love of rom-coms and studio movies and figuring out how can I do that for the rest of my life. And so it's interesting as we cut to today, I just made my first movie. It's a romantic comedy and it's called Dating in New York. And tied into that, coincidentally, I was asked to co-host a podcast about dating in New York City. Probably because I had actually gone on a date with a girl who worked for an app called Hinge. We become friends and we both are video creators. And she was kind enough to say, do you want to do this experiment together and make a podcast that shows how dating kind of sucks for everybody and how we can make it, more of a shared experience.
Fantastic. So you just finished your first film?
So just finished the first movie. It's been a lifelong dream. It's been a really crazy experience. I lived in LA for 8 years and trying to get a movie made. And I was pitching scripts. I become very close. I just didn't know how it happened. How do you graduate, you think, oh, how do you make a movie? You write a script, you pitch it, someone says yes. Turns out nobody says yes. In fact, I've never been told yes by any gatekeeper in Hollywood. It's actually kind of crazy. And I came back to New York and I ran into a friend of mine at my high school reunion. And he said to me, I can help you raise money to go make your first movie. And I said, that's great. I have no idea how we're going to do it, but let's try it. Cut to 3 months later, we've raised our money. We're casted our movie. I had the script written, and we went out and we shot it. We shot for 16 days in Manhattan in November of last year. We've been editing the movie since then. You know, as of today, I'm literally hopping off a phone call with my producing team because next week we're going to expose the movie to a few sales agents. And that will be a really interesting time because sales agents are there to help you sell the movie to a festival or to a distributor. And it'll be the first sort of like glimpse. I've done audience feedbacks and tests because it's very important that modern millennials and audiences respond to the movie, and I want to make sure that's working. But these will be the first people to see it who are in the inner system of Hollywood, who might be able to help us make our money back or at least get the movie in front of audiences.
That's very exciting.
It's the dream. It's quite literally the dream come true. So I hope people like it. And I obviously am nervous, but I do think it's really sweet. You know, I think people will enjoy it.
It sounds like you've had a lot of good success already, though. So probably things are going to continue to turn out well for you, I would imagine.
That's very nice of you to say. And I think in retrospect, look, as every artist, I think we don't really normalize like that we doubt ourselves, and that even though it's very nice of you to say, but like I see lots of lessons and lots of failures. I'm not scared to fail. Like I don't mind failing, pivoting and changing my course quickly. But like, it's nice to, the highlights, you got to celebrate the little wins. You know, the industry of filmmaking is so tough, so competitive, so emotionally driven that you've got to be able to celebrate and pat yourself on the back, even on the smallest of things. You know, you went through a day of phone calls and no one got mad at you. Congratulations. You know, that's a win in my mind. So I appreciate you saying that.
And it is a very good strategy for listeners to adopt that, to not just be waiting for, you know, the huge thing to happen, but to celebrate small victories. And truly in the COVID crisis, I think to find victories within each day is important because we have to keep our mood up. So absolutely trying to, at the end of the day, reflect on what happened today that was positive. For me, I was sitting on the balcony and the sky was spectacular at around 1 o'clock. It was just magical. So we have to look sometimes for smaller things and not just be waiting for, you know, your film to win an Academy Award or something like that, because, you know, that's going to take a little bit of time. But keep on the path and you'll get there. So you've been very creative. Obviously, since you were 4 years old, to have that idea at 4 is extraordinary. How have you used your creativity during this COVID crisis to help you cope? And what can you share with our listeners to help them cope?
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough that you have these group of people that are surfacing where it's like, well, I was already working from home, so this isn't that different for me. And it's kind of a meme now too. For me, it's very true. I was working from home. I was working from coffee shops. I haven't gone into an office formally every day for like longer than a year in a long time. You go into an office occasionally for different projects when they bring you in. But in my particular instance, I feel very lucky that we finished our movie and that we were able to still edit remotely. We can edit the film over the internet. And so I luckily had a job to do. You know, I have to see this through and I want to see it through. And then with the podcast, yeah, we did 2 episodes in a studio, but then the next week, it was that Wednesday where New York evacuated essentially and everyone went into their own apartments. And we've been doing it, again, as my job, we've been doing it over Zooms and over our using our iPhones, and we upload the footage and we sync it. But I think the thing that keeps me creative is that it's fun to be creative, and that if you really just look at what people are always like, well, you can use this downtime to reflect, to do whatever you want, do nothing. Or if you're someone who enjoys being creative, it's kind of like you have a head start and it's like everyone's on timeout and you can incubate your own ideas and you can literally do whatever you want. And my biggest piece of advice is that while it might not seem like with what you're doing creatively, maybe you're daunted to start that podcast or you want to start a podcast, but you're like, well, there's so many different podcasts out there. Like, what's the point? The point is, whatever you do now, and this applies to even when we're out of quarantine, every single creative thing you do leads to an opportunity of creativity down the line. I've had Instagram stories that I've made where I've taken those kernels of ideas and I've then put them into the movie because it worked in an Instagram story. Or I made a story that I did something weird and then I got reached out to by a brand to promote their product. And anything you do creatively will lead to more creative opportunity, whether it's commissioned or just advances your mind. So I think that is an encouraging element. For most creatives, I feel like the biggest roadblock is, what's the point? Or I'm scared. But if you do it, something good is always going to happen, in my opinion.
So I'm hearing you say what you said before, which is sort of celebrate small victories. So anytime you could do anything creative, even if it's something small, be happy about that because something else will probably come out of that. How are you using your creative skills to solve these social distancing isolation problems?
Well, it's funny, since the last time we spoke, I have a hard take on FaceTimes and Zoom dates. I hate them. I never want to do a FaceTime date again. I am denying, I'm saying no. I'm saying to people, I can't wait till this is done. We're going to go on a great date. I can't wait to see you, but I can't do it. It's depressing and I'm sad and I don't want to talk to my phone screen. And
okay. Jonah, you're hysterical because last week you encouraged all of us to get out there, give it a try, go on Zoom. You got nothing to lose.
Well, but
it was so encouraging. What happened in a week? You gotta tell us.
It's interesting. You're the doctor. You tell me. I literally just was in bed one night and I can't tell you, but it was a switch. It was, I can't do this anymore. I can't talk into a phone screen because I wasn't looking forward to it. It's like when I was in a relationship once and I realized that it was time for us to break up, it was the moment when I realized I wasn't excited to be with that person, that I actually was dreading it felt like homework, having to be with this person. And these FaceTime dates feel like homework. And it's like I'm doing it to maintain a relationship because I have to, but you don't have to. You can tell someone that you like them and you don't, if they're understanding, in my opinion, then maybe they get it. They get that you don't need to maintain these little things. That being said, I love using Zoom and FaceTime and Instagram stories as a way of providing people with entertainment. So I love doing podcasts with you, and I love making Instagram stories that people can watch and chuckle at and share. And maybe they're getting information, or maybe they're just having a laugh, or maybe they hate it. But these are all emotions that they have. And that, I don't know what the science is there, but I don't mind that at all. I like putting stuff out there where I don't have to, I don't really know what it is, but it's just a feeling,
But your feelings switched. So do you think you overdosed on the FaceTime dating? Was that what happened?
It wasn't even an overdose because I maybe had five.
That's a lot in a week?
Well, no, 5 in the 3 months that we.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe 5 or 6, I'd say total. But keep in mind, above that, my job as podcast host has required tons of Zooms, tons of other meetings that are looking at the screen. We've talked about Zoom fatigue before. And it just wasn't exciting to me. And I don't know, I get getting kind of personal with it. Like, I project, I'm loud. I like being that way. It's hard to be romantic and also do those things. And you have to do those things when you're talking through a screen.
So here's what I'm thinking. As you've been in quarantine and you're getting more comfortable doing the podcast and the Zoom and everything, you've developed that side of yourself. So now this doesn't feel like a tool for dating.
Exactly.
It's kind of work in a fun way. So you don't want to back it down and then have a nice romantic dinner this way, which is probably good, So now you got to get on the phone with her and then you got to do a socially distant dinner or a walk or something, right? The real thing.
I think you just nailed it on the head. It's as if it's the same theory of if you go into a studio to record a podcast, you're not going to go on a date in a studio. But in our case, the date and the studio and the business calls are all the same platform. Yeah. So it's, how do you distinguish it?
Yeah. We blurred a lot of the boundaries, and it's very difficult.
Yeah.
That's why I made the joke about, okay, it's Friday, and what's the difference? There's no difference. So we're in a really sort of suspended state, but it's going to start changing. So is there an atmosphere in New York for people to start to go on real dates? What do you think?
I'm getting the sense that people are starting to hang out more often in a social distance capacity, where they'll be with their friends and like in a small circle, you know, in the park on a blanket, walking around a bit. Even walking around today, people are getting a little more easygoing with their masks, you know, and how we're using those. The numbers seem to be improving. Do I think, obviously based in science, there needs to be a vaccine for there to actually be clarity and safety? I mean, I think,
Yeah.
but I'm getting the vibe that the energy is definitely becoming more open to social distance dating.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. So I would challenge you. What you're saying makes complete sense. You don't want to do this for a date because now it's become work. But what about email? What if you started like dating somebody in a whole new way? You just put it up front. You said, listen, I'm so tired of Zoom. I don't want to do that. But I'd start to write you until you feel comfortable going out with me, or something that felt a little less like work.
I love that idea. That's very, you've got mail, and I'm very down for that. And I will try that, and we can see how it goes.
Okay, see, that's the point of us being together, is we have to be creative.
Yeah.
I have a really inspiring friend. Her name is Carrie Grusin, and she's disabled. And so she has to do everything in a different way. So as we've been talking through this pandemic, she said you have to look to the corners of the room to find things, because you can't just look straight in front anymore, because if we look straight in front, things don't look very good. So we have to be creative. We have to look to the corners of the room. And that's why I thought it'd be fun to talk to you today, to see how people can be more creative and spot things that they normally didn't spot, things they didn't think about. So courting somebody through email. You know, I liked what you said earlier about anything we do creatively during this moment, you know, can lead somewhere else. Because right now our brains they don't know what's going on, because everything that we used to do, we can't do. So our brains are being forced to change, and brains are able to change. So we're able to look towards the corners of the rooms better than if we were just in our routine. We're able to be creative in a way we weren't. And what I was thinking about what you were saying is, anything we do during this pandemic, people are going to look back at it and go, wow, that's what they did during the pandemic. So we're sort of making history at the moment. So any creative endeavor you do, no matter how well it's received now, there's going to be value in it. It's an unusual amount of value, I think. So I think it's really important for people to look to the corners of the room, find things that they've never done before. You've never courted somebody over email, but why not do it now? Take advantage of this strange and unusual time, and force your brain to create new patterns. And then as we come out of this unusual time, we'll probably go back to more normal things, like a few texts, hey, you want to meet? But maybe we won't go back to some of the recklessness that was involved in dating before. I think so many of the young people have just really got a little carried away with the speed of it, with the impulsive nature, with the jumping into bed together. And this has really created a very different way of thinking of dating, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has required everyone to sort of get to know each other in better, you know, in more intimate terms. I love your idea and the positivity of finding different ways to get to know each other and to create. And look, when you're trapped in your house, creativity is always better when there's restrictions. So in this particular case, you've seen so much creative work be done with people making music at home and making Zoom movies, you know. So I think it's all in its own right fairly positive, and a good, like you said, good timestamp on art during this time.
I like what you said, that people are always more creative when they're constricted.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, in movie world, typically I look at that as like, okay, the less money you have for a movie, the more creative you're forced to be. And when you have these massive movies with tons and tons of money, sometimes they go awry because you can fix almost anything financially. But that might not be a good thing in terms of like forcing your mind to be hyper creative. There's a fine line. Obviously, you can hire very creative people the more money you have, but you watch a lot of movies that are really, really amazing, and you find out, oh, why did they do it that like that? Or why was it all handheld? Or how did they know to try this? And usually the answer is we just didn't have the money to do it any other way. So it's kind of a fun, lesson.
So in psychology, we talk about post-traumatic growth and how when people experience trauma, you guys have probably all heard of post-traumatic stress disorder, right? But that's actually the exception. The more common reaction after trauma is called post-traumatic growth. And studies have shown that 1/2 to full 2/3 of people actually grow through trauma. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's when you're constrained, you're forced to be more creative. And when you're more creative, you're growing, you're changing. So I think there's a real gift in this terrible time that we're in, but the gift is to tap into resources that you wouldn't normally necessarily tap into. People are doing yoga now online. People are meditating more than ever. People are getting to know each other before they go out on a date. People are learning to cook. People are keeping their own houses clean. We're doing all sorts of stuff that we wouldn't normally do. And it's nice to think about how that's going to lead us down a different path where we are more creative. We're forced to do things, and ultimately, hopefully, an opportunity for growth. That means our time is up.
I love that.
I'm still trying to figure out how to end these things on time. So
no, it's good.
This was a creative endeavor to use a stopwatch. It didn't work because that was 2 minutes over. We weren't supposed to hear that. But anyway, touche. It's been great to see you again. I hope you continue to thrive in captivity and that you get out and start meeting people face to face soon. We're in Miami. We're getting out and it feels so good. I can't even tell you how good it feels. It's amazing.
Are you guys wearing masks still, or what's the mask vibe?
Yeah, I'm going to wear mine. I think it's the smart thing to do. You're protecting yourself, you're protecting others. Absolutely wear it. But even just seeing humans, it's just so extraordinary and delightful. So even if they're far away, which they are, and they're wearing a mask, it's just such a treat to see them. And restaurants and shops are starting to open up. I'm not going to go in yet, but just to see people like acting normal, it lifts such a huge weight off. And I can't wait for everybody to, be safe enough to at least venture out a little tiny bit. And then hopefully as we stay safe and we learn how to navigate, we can, get to our new normal. And someday I might even be in the same city with you and get to meet you. And that would be something to look forward to.
That'd be so fun. I would love that.
Anytime we Zoom.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me again. I love being here, and thank you for the wisdom.
And congrats on all you're doing, and we wish you the best of luck, and look forward to seeing that movie.